And which brings me to introducing our first speaker of today. She is leader of the Interactive Intelligence Group, and she is full professor in Explainable AI. Please a warm applause for Catholijn Jonker.
Well, thank you very much for these warm words. So maybe you can go to the next slide already. So I think the talk that I will give to you today is nicely in line with the last talk that you saw from, what was it, Daniel Gabler from Picnic. He was talking about two people sitting across from a canyon and how to get to the other side. And that's the same canyon that you're seeing here. So, and the story that I'll try to bring to you is that the best way to do that is through hybrid intelligence. And guess what? He didn't call it that, but he said you need someone, a person, that really interacts and guides the AI to help to cross the bridge and to make the software in the way that you get it. So for me, that's exactly the same point. In my book, diversity is important. I think the different types of intelligence that you can get give you a different perspective on the situation, on the problem, also on different types of solutions. And that will bring you more in the end than if you only go with the tools that you were first taught as a toddler in artificial intelligence. So the whole story is automation, nice, but cooperation is more challenging, more difficult, but also more rewarding. Let's go to the next slide. So one of the things that we are then, of course, facing is if you have a powerful engine in a car, it's nice to have some control over it. It's one way or another. And there are two terms for that. One is called meaningful human control, and the other is called human oversight. They're almost the same, not exactly the same, but for today's purposes, it basically means you have to have a human in the loop that knows what is going on and can intervene at the right point of time, right? That's the idea of meaningful human control and human oversight. So if you want that, then that means that you have to design your software in a way that humans are in a position and are capable and know that they're also expected to intervene at the right point in time, right? So to take over control. So that means that you're creating a system that's synergetic and transparent in the collaboration that it does. So if I'm talking about a hybrid system, I'm talking about a system consisting of AI technology plus humans in the loop somehow. Yeah? So it's the whole system, not just an AI system itself, so isolated. So at Delft, we have set up a complete program on that, on technology to create awareness and ownership of AI, to be able to develop definitions and give us also quantifiable criteria to see whether or not things are produced in the right way. And of course, then to engineer concrete hybrid intelligence systems. So in terms of meaningful human control, you have to try and break it, right? Don't just build it and assume that whatever you had in mind will be how it's supposed to be working, but try to break it. It will bring you way more if you do that. Well, this is true for science in general. So any one of you who has done a master in science, you know what I'm talking about, or more than that as well. But do take the other position. So look at it from all the different perspectives that you can. So let's move on to the next slide. Yeah. This is the idea that I'm talking about. Hybrid intelligence, meaningful human control. So you see here, and I think the left picture is the easiest. You have a powerful engine, right? The horsepower is still a measure of power these days. It's fantastic. It has an intelligence of its own. If there is suddenly a gap in the floor or something happens, the horse will swerve, it will jump, whatever it needs to do to avoid disaster. And you are supposed to stay on it, right? And you have these reins in your legs to steer the animal in the right direction, right? That's the idea. But it has a mind of its own, then don't underestimate it. You see that even more powerfully here. You have to look a bit more carefully, but you see that the reins here are slack. So he's not steering the horse. The horse is trying to cut this cow away from the herd. It's a cutting horse, as they call it. And training a cutting horse asks for experience, an experience that the first simple rider doesn't have yet. So the new cowboy learns from an experienced horse, and the new horse learns from an experienced rider. And that way you get a co-evolution, you train each other. And that's kind of the vision that we have in hybrid intelligence as well. If this person would have to indicate to the horse, now jump left, jump right, because the cow is going to do that as well, you're too late. So you can't take it completely by yourself. Horse has to do that. And you see, you can't quite see it, but there's this knob in front of the saddle. He's hanging on for dear life. You see his feet stretched out, because otherwise he flies off the horse. That's that powerful, right? And that's the image that we want to create with artificial intelligence in a situation where it really collaborates with humans in terms of hybrid intelligence. This was my clicking gesture. Okay, thank you. So now what do you do with that in all kinds of businesses? Now, the thing that I'm going to concentrate on today is organizations that are knowledge intensive. So a lot of knowledge is going on. You have to consult people, you have high workloads, maybe also high personnel turnover, could be. And the knowledge field is dynamic by itself. Guess what? That's why we're all here, right? AI is developing at an immense pace. Then you have to advise your people. How do you do that? So in this setting, we're talking about the idea of a learning organization. In your learning organization, you want to make sure that your consultants have the knowledge to serve their clients in the best possible way. So it's a micro level, that's where they're talking, embedded in a system, again a system of course, say the meso level, where you have your management, you have your ICT systems, your maintenance and whatever. These people have to be able to do their work snap, sharp, and to be able to update the knowledge that they gathered into the system, so that other consultants can also learn from that. So you have to find a way where AI not just solves some of your problems for you, but helps you create new knowledge and store that into your organization. That's a learning organization. And guess what? AI can also help with that. Yeah, so it's AI at different levels here. And then, of course, you go to a higher level. You work together with other companies or other organizations. And there, of course, you also want to exchange knowledge. So don't just think of solving the problem that is at hand, but look at the wider issue and see that you retain and save, foster the knowledge that you're creating within your organization. Okay, so here's the same gap that you saw in the image of the previous speaker from Picnic. So yes, we have fantastic AI tools, we have LLMs, we have whatever kind of artificial intelligence that can help you understand your knowledge field better. So this can be about AI itself, but it can also be about legal systems, it can be about education, doesn't really matter. Something that's knowledge intensive, where AI has a lot of knowledge in store for you, but how do you apply that in the right way at the context, right? And that's what we say, okay, here we need to bridge that gap, and you need additional AI, more from the traditional types of AI, knowledge technology. And for those of you starting a bit earlier in this century, you know still what knowledge technology is, to help AI interpret the context. Then come with a solution, but you, as an engineer or as a consultant, have to be able to determine to what extent and what way that knowledge is actually applicable in the context. And if you do that wrong, you get wrong answers. But I think my predecessor there did a great job of explaining that. So in a couple of projects, we're working on establishing this bridge. And you know that you have to cross this bridge, and how do you do that? So let's cross that bridge a little bit. And this is one way how we did it for a legal desk system, a juridisch loket for people who speak Dutch. They get their clients from all over the world, and I have to advise them. These people come with a problem, and if you just Google on that problem, guess what? You're not getting the right answer, right? So because they present the problem as far as they understand it. So they need you as an advisor, as a consultant, to ask questions to get more information about that context, to interpret actually what the case is. So understanding each case is vital to do that. Now, they have the same situation of high turnover of personnel, well, they need some way to strategically ask the right questions to people. And that's strategic knowledge, or if you're raised in the old-fashioned artificial intelligence aspect, also diagnostic reasoning. Very important to get that right. And that diagnostic reasoning is something that you only acquire over time. In all the data sets that they have, also at Legal Desk, that information is not stored. You get the input, it was the original question, and this was the advice that we gave them. The journey between the two you don't see. And you need it to be able to give good advice to all people. So you need a way to transfer that knowledge from one consultant to the other one. And this is one way to do it. I'm not saying that's the only way, but it's one way that we did it here. It's a very low system level stuff. Really, no hard AI in it, but it's so functional. And the interesting point is, for the clients, this itself also gives structure. They understand, okay, these are the questions, these are the answers that seem to be relevant to get a grip on it. So with that, you can understand the problem from different perspectives because you have different people in your team building that knowledge. You're not depending on only one consultant to give that underlying knowledge. You can transfer cases much more easily because you know exactly also what has been asked and why. You can build your case database far more intelligently, and you can capture the diagnostic reasoning in itself. Because if you have a system like that, whatever they click on, you know. So you know what question they asked first. And in the system, it also knows why. So having that way of doing it allows you, with more sophisticated AI, say pattern recognition, machine learning aspects such as reinforcement learning, to get that patterns and get this diagnostic reasoning out. And that means that you can do knowledge and reasoning transfer. Right? Let's go to the next. So if you then get that together then within any organization where you can do your consultation, you build it, you use the same stuff yourself. In your education, new people coming in, you can use cases from your own experience within your own organization to train the next people and to help build new strategic pieces of information for them in terms of legal system. If the legislation changes, you need new strategics and you need a new compass to build that knowledge with. So you need a signal function, then you can talk about it. Actually, a very important thing, of course, to have people talk to each other, get that information out and get that knowledge exchange. And you build it, you build your own compass together and you use it in your consultations. So you get a system that kind of has clock wheels throughout your organization to store that knowledge, to harvest that knowledge, and to encourage knowledge development. And in that way, we hope to get a co-evolution between AI and people, wherein both learn from each other, right? Now, let's go to the next slide. So, can't we do that with LLMs? Because, hey, that's the day, and as you said, 90% of the people are using it, and whatever you do, they think that LLM as a kind of smarter chatbot will solve the issues for you. Well, of course, this brings us back to the first scene where we were at the gap, and we have to cross it from context to the LLM. We know that the questions asked by the clients are unfortunately uninformed, but hey, that's why they come to you, right? Only to be expected. So you need to realize that, because if you then think that a direct prompt will give you the answers, you will fail. It will fail in precision and it will fail in recall, right? So you need diagnostic elicitation expertise to get an informed problem statement. If you have that, then you can say, okay, now let's feed it to the LLM, right? And then you're basically at the point where Rob was when he started asking his question to GPT. Do you get a real good answer? Well, it gets better because you have a better prompt. But again, different perspectives are lacking, and these things are pleasers. Whatever you ask, they will try to give you an answer that, well, probably will make you happy. We're all not here to be happy, in that sense, it would be nice, but we're here to learn, right? We're here to be challenged. We need to learn from it and from each other. So you need more perspectives in it. So with your original prompting statement, now you're facing an LLM that can give you meaningful answers if you feed it with the different perspectives. So how many different perspectives can you get on that problem? Feed it to the LLM, and now harvest that information, wind it up into a new piece of information or knowledge, and then you need your expert to actually modify it, to bring it to your client. And then we're done. Yeah, so no, you still need your consultants, you still need your developers, I'm sorry. Not an easy way out, but if you do this properly, it will go way faster. Right? Yeah, so, and you are way more dynamic in how you do it. Let's move on to the next one. So let's see that in a bit of a different story. I want to have another way of, getting these reins on that powerful horse. So how do I monitor what AI systems are doing? And then AI systems, maybe let's call them AI algorithms in that sense, the techniques. One of the ones that are typically mentioned is things like job hiring and fraud detection, in which you'd like to use all kinds of AI techniques to determine what is the best decision in this situation, right? So with the idea that you can remove historical bias in job hiring, that you can look for equal opportunities, that you promote people in the right way, etc., etc. And in fraud detection, to get your insurance people happy, that your credit cards are protected, that your customers are protected also from phishing. But on the other hand, you also want them to be able to get their business done. So if you intervene at every moment where a slight chance of abuses, then you get angry customers, right? So it's a balance. You have to do it as a balance. So fairness is one of the ethical properties that you can take into account. But what I'm telling you here today, you can of course also do for other ethical principles. So let's move on to the next slide and talk a little bit about reinforcement learning. Who does not know what reinforcement learning is? Okay, sorry, I'll go with the majority. Wonderful, good. So you know all this picture. No, nothing new here for you. You have your agent, you have your world, you make an action that gives you a change in the world, so a new state that you can observe, and you get a reward or punishment depending on, right? Okay, let's click, please. Okay, so let's see now in terms of fairness, we'll focus a bit on that. You can talk about fairness in terms of groups and individuals. So in groups, you can, for example, think about men versus women, and do they have equal opportunity, age groups, nationalities, and so on, right? But there can also be a measure of fairness with respect to individuals. The people that had the same education actually get the same chance, right? So within a community or within a family bubble, how does that work? Can you move across that? So let's move on and say, okay, then how do you do that? So this is the original stuff that you had. Now we add some additional feedback on these measures. So you're monitoring in terms of these properties, in terms of fairness. And there can be a number of the different properties describing some aspect of fairness that you could measure. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So in terms of group fairness, you see here a couple of definitions. So don't bother about the formulas, takes too much time, but a little bit about, for example, SP stands for statistical parity. So people from the two groups are hired with the same probability. As a notion of fairness. Let's pick another one. Overall accuracy equality. The accuracy of the agent should be the same across the groups. And there can be, of course, many more. Because, hey, we're humans and we disagree, diversity again, we disagree on what is fair, right? So you have to have different definitions on fairness here as well. Let's move on to the next one. There's also this individual fairness. So here we consider two. Let's go for a bit into this individual fairness. The distance between the probability distributions for I and j, for so two people, over the actions with respect to these people is not larger than the distance between the two individuals. So a little bit of statistical knowledge I think you have, because otherwise you don't understand reinforcement learning to begin with. So this depends on a distance metric. Okay, another problem which you of course have to solve, for which you have different perspectives, but okay. And there's another one, but for time's sake I'll leave it. You can look it up in the article if you like. Let's move on to the next one. So we tried these out into these two different scenarios, job hiring on the one hand, fraud detection on the next. Let's go to the next slide. So for job hiring, if you give it a single objective, then what happens? So if you only look at performance, so this is the R at the top, always stands for the reward function. So just optimizing towards reward and then measuring with the other properties that you have how good it is on these other aspects. Right? That's what it does. Reward is nice and high. Well, for some of the group fairness notions, it's not that bad, but it's not that good at individual fairness notions. So on the right-hand side. Okay? So what happens if you start really focusing on some aspect of group fairness? The different colors, a bit hard to see here, stand for the different group fairness notions. You see, well, things happening, even though the reward only gets a tiny bit less. You see that here, for example, the individual fairness is increasing a bit, and it also has an effect on this other individual fairness notion. Now, if you really focus on individual fairness, you see things are improving even more. So there's an opportunity here to do so. But of course, we don't just want to focus on one single property. We'd like to have a multi-objective reinforcement learning algorithm here, and we can give it. So let's go to the next slide, and let's combine what comes in here. So from the multiple objectives that you can have, you can also see and measure what it does to your performance and to each of the notions that you put into place. Now, remember, you have a choice. You can say, I want to focus on a certain properties that you want to train your algorithm on, and you can measure against those same, but also other properties that you have in mind. So now suddenly you have way more range on this, because you know where things can go wrong. Now, if you do this only on output, you're a sucker, because, hey, guess what? Your input is also changing over time, right? So you should also monitor whether or not your input consistently over time meets the assumptions and the criteria that you set to that data in order for it to be used correctly. Now, if we do this the same for fraud detection, you see that, oh, this reward is difficult anyway. Yeah? So the fraud detection is in itself a more difficult problem. And you see that certainly with respect to some of these fairness notions, it's really difficult to get this right. So still a lot of work to be done here. Let's click one more. And you see the same happening here. If we do this also with the multiple criteria, the interesting thing remains that it does not affect your reward that much to do it, but it does your fairness with respect to these notions. So there's a real opportunity here. It's just more clever thinking about how you set it together and making sure that you have your experts in the field that understand fairness from different perspectives, your different stakeholders, and you can do this. Let's move on to I think I'm almost there. I'm at the main takeaways of this mini lecture. I don't know. So I would say go for hybrid intelligence. Just can't be said enough. Multidisciplinary teams are important. Have people in there from different backgrounds, women, males, wherever they come from. Use the different take on problems, because it will serve you. It costs a bit more in getting these people to understand each other well, but it will serve you. As you see, it also serves the output that you create in terms of artificial intelligence. And that means that in that way, if you go for hybrid intelligence, you can augment human intelligence. You can create a situation where humans learn from AI and AI learns from humans. And that gives you a co-evolution that's interesting. You can use hybrid intelligence to bridge this context gap that we saw in the also previous presentation. And you can transform your organization into a learning organization. Just think about how to do it, and you can. Use hybrid intelligence to monitor and adjust the machine learning that you use in your organization. We gave an example from the point of reinforcement learning. Happy to think along how you do that for other kinds of AI techniques. This is basically the message that I would like to give you. These are my main messages. Thank you.
Thank you. It's time for questions or remarks.
And a piece of water.
Tibor.
Yes, thank you for this dense piece of information.
Yes.
What you basically did, or your group, is sort of build a model to evaluate AI models, right, on sort of the output and not just the result, but also fairness. And that's actually, I think it's quite interesting, especially if you want to have other aspects like fairness, and there could be others as an output of that model. Are these evaluation models already used? Because for me, it would be very interesting to, for example, compare, I don't know, an OpenAI versus a cloud model. How are they doing on these metrics? Is this already common to?
Well, I think there's also an interesting question for our panel, but I would say the main difficulty here is in how do you formalize your metric, in this case, your ethical principle or whatever you have. And you see, I already had like 7 different formulations of, hey, we were just trying to go for fairness. Can't you just have one formulation of that? And no, people don't agree, so you have to think on it. So I think that's one of the reasons why people don't do it. But on the other hand, I think it's also the story from the previous talk. You know, people think, oh, just ask an LLM and we'll build it and then hope that it works. It seems to work, so probably it works, right? No, so probably you need to try and break it. And try and break it helps a lot. And therefore you need different perspectives on it.
Yeah.
I guess is the thing.
Other questions or remarks? So.
How can it help to make sure that fairness doesn't become mediocre?
How does it help to?
Well, if you try to implement a fair system,
Yep.
you start normalizing, I think, most of the time.
That depends, of course.
Just that's pleasing.
Yeah, so keep a good guard on it. And if you're talking about your reward function, that reward function is typically the one that you're really evaluating your business on, right? So it could be the quality of your output, could be anything else that is not specifically the other criteria that are the things that you would like to guard for. So remember, we're picking from, say, if we're talking about job hiring, we're picking from the best, right? And within the best, you pick fair. We're not going to say we are going to pick unfair because you happen to be a male, will give you priority. No, sorry, that we don't do. So it's going to be fair, but picking from the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice question. I like it.
One more.
Thank you, Catholijn, for the insights. I have a question on the fairness. I would say fairness in China has a different meaning than fairness in the Middle East.
Yes.
Fairness in Europe, fairness in USA today.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't we end up building LLMs that are locally fair and globally not applicable?
Yeah, that could very well be. So certainly if you're talking about an international organization, you'll have your discussions at board level to think on what's the identity that you want to put out.
And
Yeah.
is your way to build something that, I don't know if I would call it fairness, something that works everywhere?
Yeah, so we picked on fairness here for all kinds of reasons. Also because, of course, we had interesting databases to check this on. Let's be fair there. But, the best way to get a good, balanced, diverse organization is to just hire diverse, right? And if you have to put all kinds of metrics on it, we are in trouble already. That's true. So in the end, I don't think I have a real answer to that. I don't think any delegation to whatever system is going to do that for you. But on the other hand, if you do this and you start talking about it, you can make it concrete and you can measure. And measuring helps. And that we know for all kinds of situations, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And before we thank Catholijn, I'd like to thank Catholijn. This is not a book I wrote or anything. It's no promotion. It's just a great book about guardrails guiding human decisions in the age of AI. It's not a recent book, but I really I know that you were gonna like it. So thank you very much,
Thank
everybody.
you so much.
Catholijn. Yeah, I love your work, Catholijn. You inspire me.